What's up, everybody? What's going on? This is the No Huddle. I'm Tolly Carr. You're hanging out with the HBCU Game Day crew. We got Vaughn Wilson in Tallahassee, Florida. We got the Carolina boys, that Carolina connection in Charlotte and parts unknown outside of Charlotte. Stephen J. Gaither and Wali Pitt. I hope everyone's enjoying themselves. Look, we don't have a whole lot of football to talk about. We're still dealing with the coronavirus. I'm kind of like, I might get a haircut, I might not. This is one of those, I might not weeks. And this hat, though, is doing the job. You can have one as well at teespring.com. The leaves are starting to fall instead of games. I'm going to be outside raking leaves, and I got some nice hoodies to do that in. You, too, can enjoy cross colors at a discount. 10% off discount code at HBCUGameday.com. The only guy, though, the lucky duck, our superhero of the crew, Vaughn Wilson, has had the opportunity to catch a few football games this year. And not just any football games. I mean, football games coached by Primetime, the offensive coordinator, Deion Sanders, who's also the head coach at Jackson State, hasn't jumped into that quite full-time just yet as they finish out the high school season. You were with Coach Prime over the weekend in Tallahassee, some high school football there. What was that whole experience like, Vaughn, when a superstar rolls into town on the sidelines?
Well, if you can imagine a small town about 20 miles on the outside of Tallahassee, knowing that the Prime show was coming, when we arrived a couple hours before the game, there was already gathering, and people, you could hear them talking, not believing, Deion's not coming. But he did show up, and when he came, he brought a show with him. The Trinity football team is everything they're built to be, high-powered offense. His son, Sheduer, is the quarterback. He mentors him very well. Sheduer is very skilled, great skill set. He's calm in the pocket. He's a very good size guy, and he can move around. And we were trying to get any hints that he might be accepting that offer that his dad made to Jackson State. We didn't get anything out of that, unfortunately. But Corey Fuller, who played at Florida State, played in professional ranks with Cleveland and Minnesota among the teams he played for. He coaches the East Gadsden Jaguars, who Deion was in town to play. They are like brothers, and what we saw from them was just truly amazing. After the game, the teams got together at center field, and Deion and Corey both spoke into the lives of those young gentlemen.
The best thing about it, when we leave tonight, he'll tell me what I can fix to help us. I'll tell him what he can fix to help them. That's the beauty of this relationship.
One thing about this game tonight, if our kids don't believe now, they're never gonna believe. You know, like my man say, I believe at Jackson State, they gotta believe now. This team that won 3 state titles, they've got a quarterback that's a 4-year starter. In football, that is the most important piece on the field, is the quarterback play.
Well, the best thing about Sheduer, he don't care. He don't care about a pick. First thing I asked him, what did you see? I just floated it. I put it was a duck, and I made a bad read. And he ready to move on. I linger with it a lot longer than he does. But he forgets it and is ready to move on to the next play. I'm here to build these kids, to raise them, to be wonderful men, professionals. Not just professional football players, but professional. That's what I'm here about today.
All right, that's Coach Deion Sanders. You know, guys, it's weird. I was sitting here at home earlier today, and I looked up, and it was a Subway commercial, and it was Deion Sanders. And for the first time, I actually said it out loud. I was like, hey, that's the Jackson State coach. He's got a Subway commercial. Vaughn, what type of entourage, if any, follows in the wake of Deion when he rolls into town?
Well, usually the entourage rolls behind a dude, but his film crew was there ahead of him. They were there when we were there setting up. But the stadium was extremely packed. The East Gadsden football stadium is about a mile, 3/4 of a mile off of the highway. The parking lot was full. Cars were lined all the way out to the highway. And yes, there were cars parked along the highway.
Wali, do you hear that? He has his own film crew. So you gotta get your defensive end, Winston Pop Warner spin, swim moves if you want to get in there and get your shot, man.
Luckily for me, I've been packing on mass. I got a little bit of body, so I'm that one hard cameraman. I'm gonna be hard to body out the paint, especially come spring 2021. After all these Corona pounds I done put on.
You say that, it's ironic. The one thing that took you down was that Mike Pence fly that landed right on the sensor of your camera. So not even all that bulk you got could get past the fly. So
The air ball at the pregame NCCU basketball came from my own people. Woo! Caught me.
we're going to come back, and Stephen J. Gaither is going to take the wheel and take us down memory lane. Something about some Rattlers, some Eagles, and a whole lot of rain. You're watching the No Huddle. Hey, welcome back to the No Huddle. Sorry about the football here. It's just my safe place because I can't see the games. You know, it's not because of we don't want to see the games, because wind, snow, rain, we wouldn't let any of that stuff get in our way. But the Rona, we're going to pump the brakes on that because we're all about being healthy and living long lives as best as we can. But speaking of not letting the rain get in your way, there was this football game, 2016, I think, if my memory serves me correctly. North Carolina Central hosting FAMU. There was a hurricane, remnants of hurricane, bands of rain that made it very sloppy, very uncomfortable. I think maybe 3 people were in the stands. 2 of them are on the show right now, and that's Stephen J. Gaither and Vaughn Wilson. Steve, we're going to toss it over to you, man. What was it like watching a game, filming a game in what felt like the middle of a hurricane?
You know, I'm a big R&B head, so there's a lot of great songs about the rain right there. Can You Stand the Rain? There's Purple Rain, I Wish It Would Rain. That's none of the rain that they were talking about that day that we were digging in Durham. It was just nasty. And nasty's probably still too nice to describe what went on Kelly Riddick Stadium that day. You know, being in North Carolina, and Vaughn's from Florida, so they're like in the middle of Hurricane Alley. But North Carolina, you know, we get a little taste here and there, and depending on how bad it is, it's a couple hours inland you may get touched. But Durham, North Carolina is 2.5 hours inland, so I lived in that area for a while, and you generally don't get much more than a good thunder shower, but it was definitely not the case on the day that we're talking about as far as North Carolina Central and Florida A&M. You know, I came into town from out west, so, you know, driving in, there's a lot of rain. There was heavy traffic on the interstate. You're like, man, are people really gonna play a football game out here? You know, and you kept waiting to hear for things to be canceled, and they never were. So I was like, look, I already drove 2.5 hours. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm just gonna drive back and not get it and not at least go out there and see what's what. So, you know, you get out there, and it is as bad or worse than advertised. You know, like you said, you talk about the few people, only me and Vaughn really on the sidelines. There weren't very many people at the game, period. It was a crazy atmosphere. I mean, everything was soaked, and it's not even a grass field there at O'Kelly Riddick Stadium. It's actually field turf, but that's just how bad it was. But it ended up being a great game, and FAMU, they were struggling. They weren't they weren't the FAMU that we see right now that's been up there right with the top of the MEAC. They were struggling, and North Carolina Central was really riding high under Malcolm Bell, under center and things like that. But it was a dogfight that wasn't decided till the very end. So it was one of those NFL films type games where it's like you feel like you hear Steve Sable's voice booming over you, and so it was something I won't forget. Would I do it again? I probably would. I'm not even gonna lie, but I definitely would think twice about it again.
Of course you would. You were taking cruises when the coronavirus was coming in. You don't fear anything. Wali was not there, but he was cheering on the Eagles from afar. Vaughn Wilson was there. Vaughn, how much duct tape did you put on your camera? Because I know you weren't caring about yourself. You were worried about your camera.
Well, first off, I am from Florida, and like Stephen say, it is Hurricane Alley. But even, you know, rain normally falls like this. Sometime when a hurricane is like this, I promise you it was going like this in Durham that day. So much so that the radio crew had to move their equipment about 3 times because the rain was going directly against those split windows in O'Kelly Riddick's press box. And so the rain was coming in, so the radio crew had to reshuffle about 3 times. I had about 2 rolls of gaff tape and 3 hefty bags around my camera to try to keep it dry, but I should have wrapped myself in it because I was completely soaked, even with a rain suit on. And, most people, Stephen and I, we got to question ourselves because all the other media people that were scheduled to come did not come. I think it was just he and I, you sometimes, Wali knows about fighting for position. When you got a lot of photographers around, we could pretty much stand in the huddle if we wanted to. And nobody else was around us. No one was in the stands. Great game, though. Just like Stephen said, FAMU was not having its best year. It was during the downtime. But they made it into a game. And save for an unsportsmanlike penalty on a FAMU wide receiver, it would have been a tie game and possibly even overtime. FAMU was down by 3. Down to about the 15, a chip shot of a field goal, the wind had died down, and then the wide receiver gets a 15-yard penalty. You can't kick that far in the rain. So it was a really good game. But the conditions to this day, I've never been in that, and I'm like Steven, I'd have to question myself if I did it again.
Let's take you inside the quagmire from 2016.
On October 8th, 2016, Hurricane Matthew tumbled onto the North Carolina coast, causing devastation and destruction for thousands of people who live along the eastern half of the state. Meanwhile, I was dumb enough to be outside with my camera in heavy wind and rain as North Carolina Central hosted FAMU for a football game. If I hadn't already driven 3 hours to get there, I might have just stayed inside. But since I was already there, I figured I'd go. I also figured there wouldn't be many fans in the stands, and I was right. For good reason. It was windy, cold, and downright nasty. I also figured I wouldn't be the only media member to stand out in the rain to get footage. Wrong. If my boss had told me to go, I probably would have tried to worm my way out too. It was a great game as North Carolina Central had to fight off an upset attempt by FAMU to come up with a 17-13 win. In the end, I did it for the culture, but I definitely needed a new pair of sneakers when it was all said and done.
Welcome back to the No Huddle, everyone. I'm Tolly Carr. Stephen J. Gaither, Vaughn Wilson, and Wali Pitt still along for the ride, along with you as well. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you want to keep up with the latest that's going on in the world of HBCU sports and culture, just go to HBCUGameday.com. If you were on the website a couple of weeks ago, you would have noticed that there will be no spring football for the CIAA. The conference announced a couple of weeks ago that they will not be sponsoring football this spring, so we'll have to wait till the fall at the very earliest for some football in the CIAA. So Wali Pitt, that means no Salem, Virginia, no champion this year, no free hot dogs for you. Man, that's got to be some bad news to swallow.
Man, and let me tell you something about the CIAA championship game in Salem. It ain't free hot dogs. They got a tailgate cook-off for hours beforehand, and it's free plate bonanza. Y'all know I like the free plate. That's the free plate plug. Everybody was showing me love. I had some deep fried turkey, some ribs. Shout out to my guy Eric Martin. He's a Q from I think it's Loudon, Maryland, and they actually won the cook-off, and they kind of befriended me in 2017. And man, just what a great free plate. And I was even joking with him, like, man, y'all gonna win. And then came halftime, he actually won. So I was like, okay, my skills are still intact when it comes to the barbecue. But yeah, it's become a pilgrimage for us, especially me and Steve, because we go up there for Media Day. And in June, in 2017 specifically, y'all know I'm a toot my own horn. Winston and Bowie had played in the championship game at 15 and 16, and everybody at Media Day was going to be Winston Bowie 3. And, I stepped out, as y'all know, I'm known to step out and say stuff.
And while a majority of HBCU football experts were expecting Rams Bulldogs 3, I seem to remember one HBCU game day wizard seeing a vision in his crystal ball at CIAA Media Day back in July.
I'm going to be the oddball here. I'm picking Fayetteville State, Virginia State to be in here. Know where you heard it first.
I actually picked Fayetteville State and Virginia State, which is who actually made it to the championship game that year. So, I went up there with my chest super poked out, But it ended up being a really great game.
Fayetteville State Broncos, winners of the CIAA Southern Division, came to Salem looking to knock off the 9-0 North Division winning Virginia State Trojans. And they got things off to a good start with Brandon Smith returning the opening kickoff 52 yards. But it didn't last long as Donshell Jetton fumbles 2 plays later and VSU gets the early takeaway.
And it is a fumble on the play.
And the Trojans didn't waste any time as the CIAA Offensive Player of the Year Trenton Cannon scores from 10 yards out. Virginia State on the board first, 7-0. The Trojans get the ball back and continue to make plays. This one is an 84-yard touchdown from Cordero Cook to Zach Parker, and the Trojan lead grows to 14-0. Still in the first quarter, Virginia State adds another score on this 5-yard touchdown pass from Cordero Cook to Josh Harris, and the route is on. VSU up 21-0, and that's the lead they would take into the half. Both the VSU Trojan Explosion and the Fayetteville State Marching Bronco Express gave us some new addition at the half to warm us up. Early in the second half, the Broncos buck back. Quarterback Richard Latmer hits Curtis Burson for a 37-yard score to close the gap to 21-7. But every time Fayetteville State looked like they might come back, the Trojans were right there with the big play. This time, it's quarterback Cordero Cook taking it himself for a 26-yard touchdown to put VSU back up 3 scores. Virginia State 28, Fayetteville State 7. The CIAA took a moment to honor some black college football legends for the HBCU 125 campaign. Always good to see some HBCU greats getting some love. Welcome back, fellas. Still no quitting these Broncos. They answer back again. This time it's star running back Stevie Green from 15 yards out. The point after is missed, and the Broncos close the gap again. They're down 28-13. But that's as close as the Broncos would get as the CIAA Offensive Player of the Year takes this handoff for 73 yards and a touchdown. And what does he do for an encore? He breaks off another big run, this one a 79-yard touchdown, putting the game out of reach. Too much Cannon and too much Trojans means the 12th CIAA title for Virginia State.
Number 1, not Bowie, not Union, not Worcester, us, baby. Hey, you already know. Number 1. Yeah, shoot. Number 1. You know what I'm saying? They know. Undefeated. Celebrate, champ.
As we continue to go down memory lane on this episode of the No Huddle, I'm thinking back to 2016 and Fort Valley State. This was my first year covering the SIAC. Man, they were dead to rights. They were just out of the race. They had won one divisional game against Clark Atlanta because Clark Atlanta's quarterback went down and the backup couldn't seal the deal. And outside of that, man, they were like 0-5 the rest of their games. So they were like 1-5. Their leading wide receiver, Otis Brown, Coach Kevin Porter at the time decided, Otis, I think it was because of injury, you're going to be the quarterback. And he had obviously played some quarterback in high school, but that wasn't what his deal was in college. And man, Otis came in there and led. I think he did lose one game maybe, but after that, won out the rest of the way. I had a preview piece of the SIAC championship at HBCUGameday.com. I said Fort Valley State was eliminated. They were still alive because of that one division game, and they gave me some flack. But I was like, but y'all really ain't in it. And man, Otis kept slinging those touchdowns, and the next thing you know, they win the Fountain City Classic. They make it to the SIAC championship game. I mean, they were dead, buried, foot on both banana peels, and somehow Otis bought the Wildcats back. Fort Valley has been riding a wave of momentum since Otis Brown took over as quarterback this season, 3-0 as a starter, looking to go 4-0 in this championship finale. Third quarter, he finds Bolden Davis, 16 yards for the score. We are tied at 21. Still in the third, Bill Rose showing that he is the man kicking the ball. 45-yarder, KSU up 24-21. All right, we got a lot of field goals here. In the fourth, Juan Swerna for Fort Valley, a 37-yarder, and boom, we are tied at 24. And guess what? We're going to overtime, and guess what? More field goals. In the first overtime, both teams trade kicks, including a 43-yarder from Cerna. In the second overtime, Kentucky State gets the first possession, and they settle for a field goal. Bill Rose, 32 yards. They lead at 30-27. Fort Valley able to pick up a key first down here in the second overtime, and that puts them within range of possibly winning it with the touchdown. Brown, he sees the blitz coming. He audibles to Jackson. It's over. It is over. Fort Valley State started the season 1-6, counted out by HBCUGameday and everyone else who's being honest with themselves. Eat your words. Eat those words. For the first time since 1999, Fort Valley State, SIAC champions in football.
It was tough. It's always tough, but as we have been doing over the year, we've been coming back, we've been defending, and we stay together as a team, regardless, no matter what. We go in halftime, we fix things, and we come back out and we do our thing. With a great quarterback, a great offensive line, a great team, we always just overcome adversity, always.
Ooh, that was a scary drive. I knew if we scored, we could end the game, because they kicked the field goal before, and then we caught the pass play. I pump fake on the snap count. I seen everybody about to blitz. So me and my running back, we said, hey, just go right up the middle, because they about to blitz all linebackers. He said, all right. He went in the middle. He was by himself. I just lined it up to him. That's how it happened.
Our kids kept working. They kept coming to practice. They kept working hard. And, we just knew that if we were able to beat some people down the stretch, that we would have a chance to be here. So